Buongiorno! Today I am at Ostia Antica with my Rick Steves Best of Rome group. We have 7 days here in the lovely city of Rome, and one of the days we get a bus and we come out to visit one of my favorite archaeological sites. And today we're visiting Ostia Antica, which is the ancient seaport of Rome. I like to call it Pompeii Light, or the Little Pompeii. It doesn't have quite as much to it as Pompeii does in terms of the decoration or the complexity, because it's rather small, but it's a really nice place to come and get a sense of what ancient Roman sites are like. So I'm going to take you for a little walk around the site. Here we have the Forum, or the heart of ancient Ostia. This is where people would have come to meet. You would have had people sitting on these steps playing games, meeting with their friends, and the temple at the other end. In the distance there you can see the Forum baths, as bathing was very important in the ancient world. Here we have the Forum baths. These were the baths that were kind of a little more high class, and this is where people would have come to bathe. And by bathing, I don't mean just taking a dip in the water. This is where they would have done what we would have think of as a spa. So you go to the hot room, the steam room, the cold room, you get a massage, all of the beauty treatments we associate with visiting a spa today. And this was the social function here as well. People would get together and hang out. And across the street, when they were done, they could come into everybody's favorite part of Ostia, which is the toilets. These are actually ancient Roman toilets. If you can imagine, people would sit on the seats here on the marble, and that hole down below right here is where they would have a stick with a rag to wipe their bums, and down here you can see where the water would pass underneath. So behind me you can see an ancient Roman condominium, so have a look there. This is where people would have lived, and it would have been kind of a communal style living with a space in the middle where they would have had services like water. And across the street, we have something that might look rather familiar to you. This is what you would call an ancient Roman snack bar, restaurant, takeaway. So here they might have put wood or stored supplies, and they could have had food up above. So you could have bellied up to the bar and gotten the special of the day, maybe some fish or some bread, some wine, some olives, the same things that Italians eat even today. They call it the thermopolium in here. You have beautiful old mosaics. A lot of the mosaics are no longer existing here because they were taken away by the Vatican, and you can find them in the Vatican Museum. But there are some fun fragments of fresco. This particular fresco, if you want to swing around here with me, you can see that there's some food up there, some food items that might have described their menu, and even a terrace in the back here where you could have sat and eaten your food. Very much like what we would have today. I'm an architect, and I'm kind of obsessed with little details of ancient Roman buildings. When you go over the threshold of an archaeological site like this, you can see this track. The track in the threshold is where they would have the folding doors, so folding wooden doors that would fold flat. And you can see this is where the post might have been to keep those in place, and they would slide them and have them lie flat against the walls so they could be fully open when the shop was open, and then they could lock them at night when they're closed. And these are quite large, these apartment buildings across the street. You can look down the street here and see how they're even cantilevered to have gone up even higher, so several stories high. And because Ostia was more of a working class town, we don't have big palaces like we do at Pompeii or in ancient Rome, in the center of Rome. We have the way normal people would have lived. There were about 100,000 people living in Ostia at its height, and it's really not that big of a city. So people would have been living cheek by jowl, one on top of the other, in these complexes that were possibly like condominiums, privately owned. Ruins like these are sometimes a little bit hard to read, and because of all the bare brick and no marble, it's hard to understand what it might have looked like in the past. But here at Ostia, we have a beautiful fragment. Have a look at this. This is the fragment of stuccos that once covered all of the arches in here. This is in the theater. Look how beautiful those are. You can tell that they are two people, probably a woman and a man, and the woman looks like a goddess, and she's crowning the man, and you can see how detailed this is, the stucco. So little fragments like this you can find in Roman sites like this if you really pay a lot of attention. And coming out through this tunnel, we can see the Roman theater here in Ostia. And beyond is the business square, the central business square where you would come to make a business deal. This was a shipping port, so the shipping companies had their offices around this square, and you could go and make a deal to buy exotic animals or food, whatever your business was, and it would be shipped to Ostia. And here you can see the seats to the Roman theater where they would have performed plays. This would have been the central entertainment square as well for the people of Ostia. And here at the Porta Romana, that's the gate that leads from Ostia and the harbor into Rome, we find the end of the city. This is where the city finishes, and that is where the tombs begin. The Necropolis sits just beyond me here, and this is where all the Romans would bury their dead in small tombs for the families. All along the road, just to remind people that they once lived. I also really appreciate, if you look on the ground as we go, you can see some ruts in the road from the carts that were coming and going, shipping their things to and from the Roman Empire. And I think it is a nice thing to remind myself and remind you as well that ancient Rome isn't really dead and gone. There's so many things that they do that are like what we do today. So thanks for joining me at Ostia Antica, and thank you for adventuring with me. Ciao.